All right, welcome back, everybody. The RP continues, episode number 1510. By the way, the daily poll is brought to you by EMJ Marketing. Transform your audience with powerful presentations from EMJ Marketing's elite speakers. Check out their website for more information, emjmarketing.com. Tonight it's game 3. That's the question. Who wins, Oilers or Panthers? Sarina Taylor joins us. She'll be at the game tonight, live in Sunrise, covering the game for us on the Cats and Bolts podcast. Pretty sure I know where you're voting, but I shouldn't assume, Sarina. What do you think is going to happen tonight?
I actually don't know, because if we see the Oiler team that's been coming out the last 2 games, they're not going to win tonight. They have absolutely got to get it together. In my opinion, Edmonton has not played their best in the first 2 games. They had some glimpses where they were the team that's been destroying everybody else in the playoffs. But I don't know. We got defensemen running into each other. We have forwards running into each other. Nobody can put the puck on anybody's stick at certain times. And I just really was not happy with the way the Oilers played for the majority of the first 2 games. And again, if it comes out like that, it gives the Panthers the opportunity to take advantage. And that is 100% what they will do back at home.
I got a lot of things to get to with you here. One of the viewers asked what the absence of Ryan Nugent-Hopkins would mean to the Oilers. I don't think he's definitively been ruled out, but I guess he's a game-time decision. Your thoughts on that and what it means?
It's not going to help. I mean, we've already been kicked in the stones with losing Hyman. That's been a huge loss for Edmonton. And, if they had to lose Nugent-Hopkins on top of that, it's not getting any better. So I haven't heard either way. Obviously, if you said it's a game time decision, that's the last I heard. He didn't skate yesterday, I think it was. So, I mean, we'll see. But if he's not 100% and we're down Hyman and Connor Brown's not 100%, it's not as easy of a train for the Oilers.
Fair. No, you said that they haven't been that great the first 2 games, and probably they haven't been, but they're a shot away from coming to Sunrise up 2-0. I'm talking about the Edmonton Oilers. I'm trying to remember who it was. I think Ekholm. You're not seeing the coverage in Canada like I am. Sarina's in Florida and she's going to the game. But the guy said if Ekholm had hit the net in overtime just before Marchand's breakaway goal, maybe the Oilers win and they're up 2-0. Do the Panthers deserve some credit for the fact that Edmonton has not been their best in the first 2 games?
I think it goes both ways. I really do. I think that Edmonton has they've been making mistakes, like unforced errors, right? They've been doing a lot of things that when there's no pressure on them, they're still making mistakes. But the way Florida came out in the second period of the second game, they were commanding. And there were a lot of things that they did that prevented the Oilers from getting their game going. Florida played a big game along the boards, and that's all they did. And there was a lot of dump and chase on both sides. We saw a lot of different styles of play throughout that game, but Florida ended up picking it up in the second period, and Edmonton so I think it was a combination of those 2 things. But I also feel like regardless, the Oilers just were not good when they should have been.
There are questions from the audience. Mandy, can you just chill out for a second from Edmonton? I'll ask her your question, but it's not time for weird questions just yet. Off topic. We're talking about game 3 of the Stanley Cup final tonight. And one thing that I don't think that we got to in our Cats and Bolts podcast last week, and I wanted to, but I'll ask you here. The home ice factor. We all know what Rogers Place brings for the Oilers, and I feel like they probably feel they missed an opportunity when they lost in double overtime, that this is coming back to Sunrise 1-1. What does a Merit Bank Arena do for the Panthers in your mind?
I think that there's a difference between the teams playing in Edmonton and the teams playing in Florida. There's a buzz in the whole city in Edmonton, and it's just really not like that here. But if you really look at it, the Panthers just took home ice advantage back. If you want to look at it like that, if this goes 7 games, there's 3 games left in Florida and only 2 in Edmonton. It's tied 1-1. So I think it definitely obviously helps the Panthers because they were in enemy territory, but it doesn't affect them. Edmonton and Florida are 2 teams that can actually play really well on the road. I'm confident both teams can win whatever they need to win wherever rink it happens to be in. But Florida obviously has the advantage, in my opinion, because of the fact they won the second game. I feel like when you win the second game of a 2-game split on the road and you come home as the team that just tied the series, there's just a completely different momentum factor there.
It's what Matthew Tkachuk said right after game 2. He's like, hey, it's 1-1. We're heading home, and we now have home ice advantage. Mike in Winnipeg, Mike Wynn from Ice Time Sports writes in and says, crappy ice. I think you're living in the past there, bro. Sarina, you know that I've gone to 30 to 35 Panthers games this year. I've not heard one complaint about the ice in Florida. That's like so 1990s.
Yeah, people used to complain about the ice in Dallas years ago, and I think it was bad, but it's not. It has. Why was Edmonton terrible in Edmonton then? It's just as warm there. The problem here is the humidity. That's where you get issues with the ice. It's not necessarily the heat as much as it's a combination of the heat and the humidity, but that's a non-issue.
I'm no ice technician, but it seems to me that of all the millions spent on technology, what did they do, Sarina? They learned to turn the temperature down. That's the one thing people don't understand. Like in Sunrise, it is probably the coldest rink in the NHL. And basically, you and I know when we go to the games, the hotter it is outside, the colder it is inside, and it translates to the ice, which is fine in both places. I haven't heard one complaint. Jason in Red Deer writes in and he says, you got that right, Sarina. Momentum in the Panthers' favor, but teams are also better after a loss, especially the Oilers. Thoughts?
Agree completely. Edmonton always plays better when they're down. Whether they're down in the series or they're down in the game, they just tend to play better. That game the other night, Edmonton was up 3-2. And going into the second period, and I was talking to my dad on the phone, and I said, we got to get another one. He goes, yeah, but if they do, he goes, they're going to blow it because they always play better when they're down. And I was like, I'd rather take a 2-goal lead. But it's true. It's just the way Edmonton plays. I think a lot of teams, the Panthers are the perfect example of that. Those guys, they call them here the comeback cats, which whatever. But they really have this ability. Like, how many times have I said to you, a 1-goal game means absolutely nothing if Florida's losing by 1 goal in the third period. They always find a way to squeak one in. So both teams play well when they're down.
Well, what everybody's saying, and I think we can all agree, is that these are the two best teams in the National Hockey League. So I was watching game 1 with my buddy AJ and Sean Steeb. Steber says hi, by the way. He remembers you from back in the day. And
Yeah.
I said, yeah, well, the Oilers scored 106 into the game of game 1. And I turned to Steber and I said, oh, Panthers just realized they're not playing the Lightning or the Hurricanes or the Leafs here. This is another level. Any chance you think the Oilers flipped it the other way and they're like, oh, we're not playing Dallas who folded like a we got an opponent here too. You know, I think there's a little bit of getting into the speed of the series here.
I definitely think that the first game, I just knew it was going to be a feeling out process for both sides. But I think Edmonton, after losing last year, knew exactly what they were getting into. They knew exactly what they were getting into with the Panthers. But I don't think a lot of people have been underestimating the Oilers for the last 3 years. All I've heard is that the Oilers don't have the depth. They don't have the defense. They don't have the goaltending. Meanwhile, none of those people actually watch the Oilers. So I think that from a player standpoint, they're not stupid. Those players know the game. If they watched any of the Oilers-Dallas series, they knew exactly what they were getting themselves into. But I do think that Edmonton comes out when you have guys like Draisaitl on the ice, you never know what he's going to do. And obviously McDavid. So it's very difficult to play a team like that. You know, when you're playing the top line of the Panthers, if it's got Barkov and Reinhart and Rodriguez on it, you know what you're getting from that line. They're going to do what they're going to do. But when you throw McDavid out there, even Ekblad called him McJesus the other night. I mean, he was just like, you can't, the guy literally walks on water. It's like, and Ekblad, you can tell, has the utmost respect for Connor McDavid. But what Edmonton can do on the ice is a lot more finesse and a lot more dynamic than what the Panthers can do. So I think it's kind of interesting because, you, listen, Barkov won the Selke, and if Frank Selke was out there himself, McDavid would have undressed him. I mean, it's just the things that he can do. You can't, as much as you can try to predict, you'll never be able to stop McDavid if he's hot, no matter how hard you try. I think that's the difference between what to expect and what's actually going to happen with these two teams.
Well, Connor McDavid made Alexander Barkov look silly the other night, and nobody does that. So I know exactly what you're saying. But because you're not on Twitter, you didn't see this response to our show account. And I want to give it to you regarding, when you and I were talking last week about who's got the edge in coaching, right? And you said Knobloch, if you just consider that he's only been in the league less than 2 years and he's been in 2 Stanley Cup finals, that's right, pretty good sign. Versus Maurice, who's been in the league almost 30 years. And some guy wrote in and goes, when you can throw McDavid and Draisaitl over the boards, of course you're going to be a great coach. It didn't help Todd McClellan. Didn't help Jay Woodcroft get this far. And that's just what people are going to say, right? There's more to it than having the 2 best players in the game, clearly.
Well, Edmonton's not in the Stanley Cup final because they have 2 players. That's what everybody's been yipping about for the last 2-3 years about the Oilers. The Oilers have depth. I don't care what anybody says. And it's like, people are going to say stupid stuff. If I listened to everything everybody said on social media, I would be spending all day. My brain would just be scrambled because of the dumb things that people say. But I just see the things people are still saying that. And I'm like, whatever. I don't know. It's just stupid talk.
Yeah, well, it is. But, I mean, we give our opinions and people give their opinions on our opinions. That's what makes the world go round in what we do here. Jeff in Winnipeg writes in, he says, we're going to see another overtime tonight, aren't we? Love the extra hockey. These kids are going to gut it out to 7 games. I had to look up when's the last time the first 2 games went to overtime. It was 2014. It's only happened 5 other times in Stanley Cup final history. I'll be honest, this is not a shock to me that it's this tight. Is it to you?
No, not watching the way the first 2 games have gone. We haven't really seen a lot of end-to-end action on both teams at the same time. Like I said, I really don't feel like Edmonton has played their best. I think it took Florida until the second period of the second game to start coming out their best. And again, that's going to happen. That's not to knock either team. It's just the way it goes. Both teams can't always be both 100% all the time. That second game was hot from the start. A whole 60 minutes of a game happened in the first 20 minutes of that period. I mean, it was insane. Everything happened in that first period. And you can't keep going at that pace. But I see a lot of people that are like, oh, the first game was a great game. I'm like, the first game was a terrible game. From a hockey standpoint, it was not a good hockey game. But of course, it's the people that are saying it are not hockey people. They just think because it went to overtime, it was an exciting game. I would rather see these 2 teams play their best than be going to overtime and just not. I don't really feel like the first 2 games were the greatest hockey games I've ever seen. I saw way better games when Winnipeg played Dallas. There was some incredible games there, and I just really didn't see that in the first 2 games.
Well, they're entitled to their opinions too. Jeff goes on to say, I actually think Forsling is doing a good job keeping up with McDavid, but all it takes is a misstep and you're in his ice shavings. He's specifically a guy, Gustav Forsling, that I'm talking about, was like, whoop, I better pick it up here. And he has, but he was being skated around in game 1, and he doesn't normally do that. To some of the other questions here, I said that I would address this with you. You were watching earlier when Jeremy wrote in about the Jets. The Red Wings. He says, Sarina, what does Yzerman do this offseason to finally get into the playoffs? For the non-playoff teams, I feel sorry for them. There's 30 teams that have been not playing for a long time. Detroit's one of them. What's your take on where they're at?
I'll be brutally honest because that's what I'm here for. Detroit, in my opinion, because I'm not a fan, I think they need to get rid of Dylan Larkin. I think they need to get rid of him while they can still get somebody for him. I just personally don't feel like Dylan Larkin has been the strongest captain that he could be for that team. He's injured a lot. I kind of think he's soft. And I think that if Detroit really wants to win, they're going to have to get a solid leader up front. They've been kind of tinkering around over the past few years. They thought getting Patrick Kane was going to be the answer to their prayers, which I knew immediately that was not going to be the case, and it wasn't. And I just really feel like I said, they can still probably get something good for Dylan Larkin. There's a chink in the chain there. They don't have a lot of bad players. They have a lot of decent players. They should probably be making the playoffs, but they're going to have to shake something up. I saw this with the Kings before they won their first Stanley Cup. I said the same thing. They're going to have to shake something up. And they went out and they got the Mike Richards and the Jarrett Stolls and Jeff Carters. Those are the guys that they put a team together that when they started the season, nobody expected the Kings to win the Stanley Cup. And I think that's what Detroit was kind of hoping to do with some of these guys, but they don't have that strong, like Dustin Brown was the captain of the Kings at the time. And I don't feel he was the strongest player on the team, but he was their captain for a long time and it carried them. Whereas I just feel like, I don't know, I've just never been a Dylan Larkin fan. I just don't think he's really pulling his weight there. That's my opinion.
Well, mine is because we saw Detroit twice live when they came through Sunrise, and we saw the talent there. The talent is there. There's no doubt. So there's something's missing, and Stevie Yzerman, I think you and I would agree, is proven as a general manager. So people have said the chemistry's off. Maybe it's a culture thing. That's what I would say. And go to work on fixing the culture because they're not the only team in the NHL that has that issue. To get Mandy
Buffalo
off my back, well, Buffalo, they should fold the team is what they should do.
But Buffalo's
Mandy,
got a lot of talent.
Yeah, not enough time to get. We just have about a minute and a half. Mandy in Edmonton's been asking for 20 minutes for me to ask you who your favorite rapper is.
My favorite what?
Rapper.
I don't know.
See, Mandy, that's why I've been waiting. She's asked like 3 times. I'm like, Mandy, it's a silly question, so I'll wait till the end of the interview and put it to Sarina. If I may, I thought it was Snoop Dogg.
If I had to pick, I guess it would be Snoop Dogg or 50 Cent.
There you go. So 1 minute
totally
to go.
off the wall.
Well, that's why I waited till the end of the interview. Tonight, game 3, we have less than a minute. What's the scene going to be like?
Like it always is there. People breaking their legs, jumping on the bandwagon. It's South Florida, baby. That's what they do.
Mandy's response is OMG. I don't know. She says LOL. So, yeah. Well, there's your answer. Yeah, she says yes. She went with a solid Snoop Dogg and also 50 Cent. Chad in Lethbridge says, as an ice tech myself, do not blame the ice. The NHL is a standard of ice quality. She gone. Bye, Sarina. Thanks for your time. Great job. We'll be right back. Viewer takeover the rest of the way.